Hello and welcome to the Today's Soapbox podcast. This is the podcast that accompanies the Today's Soapbox blog. So if you have not checked that out, I would appreciate if you check that out at todays-soapbox.com. There you can subscribe to be notified about my new articles, and you can also choose to donate if you would like to help fund this project. Today's episode is accompanying my article, Juntos Somos America, Connecting People Through Representation. So my first journalistic moment was an album review about a year ago for Bad Bunny's 2025 album, Debí Tirar Más Fotos. I'll just shorten that to DTMF a lot of the time, but that's the longer formal name. And I wrote a review of it for my university's newspaper, and that was a really special moment. Having grown up bilingual, I have always loved Spanish music, and so having it be mainstream and popular was super exciting for me. So I was excited to write about it from that perspective. And then when he, being Bad Bunny, was announced to be the performer for the Super Bowl halftime show, I was so excited. I knew it was going to be wonderful, but there were a lot of people who had a lot of stuff to say about it, and so I wrote kind of about that backlash and how great it is to, have a Spanish language artist. And so since then, a lot has happened, and so I figured it was worth talking about again. Bad Bunny won the Grammy for Album of the Year for this album, and it's the first Spanish language album to do so. To me, that was a bit ridiculous because I feel like there have been a lot of Spanish language albums that should have easily got Album of the Year. I'm looking at my wall right now, and I have Amor Prohibido by Selena up on my wall, and I think that album's absolutely incredible, so I would have loved if that would have won Album of the Year, but alas, we can't go back and fix the past. We can only move forward and be excited that more non-English albums are getting traction. With also K-pop Demon Hunters, there's been more traction for K-pop music and then Korean language music within that. So I'm excited for what this future means, and I think that's a really big step. Now, the halftime show happened. It was really interesting for me because at the beginning of this football season, I had no idea the Seahawks were going to be any good. I am from Seattle, so they're my local team, but I haven't really been, super invested in that journey recently, and then all of a sudden, they were really good, and I was like, oh, what if they go to the Bad Bunny Super Bowl? What if? That'd be so cool. So I just kept reminding myself, no matter what happens, I win already, because Bad Bunny's performing even if it's, two teams I don't care about. I don't know, the Browns versus the Jets. If that was the Super Bowl, I still win because Bad Bunny's performing. And then my team started playing those games, and I was like, oh, this could happen. And then it happened, and then I was like, LOL, they're at the Benito Bowl. And then they won. And I was like, stop everything you're doing. Order all the merch. You need to commemorate this moment because Seattle wins. The world wins. You personally win. So I was very excited. So I just thought it was worth talking about again. So I'll get into the article, and I'm mostly going to talk through the article and use that as kind of a structure. Okay, so I think it's really great that we have a lot of bilingual communities in the U.S. I think it's an incredible privilege to get to kind of partake in that and explore that. Especially if you get to learn about a culture that you probably wouldn't have otherwise. So I am not Latina. However, I grew up in a community that was Spanish speaking, and we celebrated Latina culture. And so I have just been really immersed in it for a long time. And in a way, I feel like it's part of me through my surroundings, not necessarily my blood. And I think that's what's beautiful about culture is something we can share and get excited about together. And I think that's kind of where America as a concept kind of is at its best. There's a lot of conversation about, like, a melting pot of cultures. And there's a difference between, like, oh, we have a blue and a yellow, and they melt together and they become green, versus, like, oh, we have a blue and a yellow, and they swirl together and become a yellow and blue swirl. I kind of think of America as, like, a soup. Like, the potatoes are still potatoes and the carrots are still carrots, and that's wonderful because we want potatoes and we want carrots, but they're all in the same broth, and that's kind of how we come together. That's kind of how I've chosen to think about it. And that's just personal opinion, so if you disagree, you're welcome to. But I just feel like that's the best parts of America, is when we can hold our own culture too, from our past and our ancestry and our heritage and all of that, and also move forward in this soup with all these other cultures. And it's really beautiful. So I feel like one of the places I have seen that clearest is at the Bad Bunny halftime show. So this was Super Bowl 60. It was on February 8th, 2026 in Santa Clara, California. That's a week ago as of recording this. So they announced the performance was going to be by Bad Bunny. His real name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. And there was controversy. Now, the football game, this is ridiculous to me. Okay, it was hosted in Santa Clara, California. California is a Spanish word. Santa Clara, Spanish name. So people were like, why is it going to be a Spanish language performance? Why isn't it going to be in English? It's like the city and state are not in English. We have to recognize that, like, more than English exists in this country. And there's so much richness here. I think it's really cool that the Seahawks have kept the logo they have, because it's inspired by Native American culture and, like, the totem pole. And they maintain a decent relationship with the Muckleshoot tribe. So I think having some of that Native identity carried through is a really special way of honoring a place. So I really was like, I mean, yeah, it's in Santa Clara. It would be great. It would be great to have a Spanish language performance, but it would be great to have a Spanish language performance in, Boston, Massachusetts. Like, that's not a limiter, but people were still, like, upset about it. So Spanish language music has not always been, like, the mainstream music in the US. There's, like, a whole separate Latin chart and global chart that tend to recognize Spanish music more. So it was actually really cool that a week before the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny won the Grammy, and of course was the first Spanish album to do so, because it kind of shows that, like, Spanish music can succeed in the mainstream. I thought it was very well earned, and now that we're over halfway through the 2020s, which is, hard to believe, but we're over halfway through the 2020s. Most of these years, Bad Bunny has been, like, in the top performing global artist, if not the top, like, on charts and Spotify and this, that, and the other. Like, sure, like, Taylor Swift is a huge deal here in the US, but that's not the entire music scene. There's so much. There are entire artists I had never heard about from the UK that I'm like, wait, you guys are listening to this? I had no idea. There's a whole different market outside the US. And so, like, the US is like, wow, Zara Larsson, where did she come from? Look at this cool new artist. People in Europe have been listening to Zara for years. Like, there's a whole other world out there. So it was cool to see Bad Bunny in the US being so successful. So some Americans were like, this doesn't represent us. If he does the halftime show, this doesn't represent us because he's not American. First off, wrong. He is American. Puerto Ricans are Americans. And secondly, it represents some of us. Katy Perry did the halftime show. Does that represent everyone? If a woman does the halftime show, does that represent everyone? If a man does the halftime show, does that represent everyone? Like, you're never gonna hit 100%. So this idea that, like, one artist has to be every person. With the exception of Whitney Houston, because Whitney Houston is every woman. There's no artist who can do that and be the universal appeal. So I felt that argument was a bit silly. And And of course, weighing in on Truth Social was President Donald Trump. I don't want to read his whole post. It's linked in the article if you choose to consume his words and put them into your brain space. But just a quote from it. He said, "Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world." End quote. So, this is just kind of a weird tweet. I say tweet. I know it's Truth Social, and Twitter isn't even called Twitter anymore, but I just ask that you bear with me. I'm going to call it a tweet. I don't know if Trump actually wrote this post, because he's not always stood by everything that's been posted to his Truth Social account, so it could have been someone else. But whoever wrote it acknowledged, like accidentally, that the Super Bowl's audience is global. They said young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. So right there's an acknowledgement that this is not just a US audience, so it's okay if that artist represents the world and not just the US. It's actually, Spanish is spoken by 600 million people worldwide, and there's a huge chunk, there's like, 7 million? I probably should have pulled up the stat, but there's a bunch of us who speak it as a second language too. So saying that nobody understands the Spanish lyrics, it's a bit ridiculous, because I understood them. I am the exception. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. So saying nobody understood it is ridiculous, because that doesn't account for me. So, I don't know. I just thought that was ridiculous. And, calling the dancing disgusting, again, Donald Trump, there are allegations he was involved with Jeffrey Epstein's child trafficking operation. If you want to talk about things that are disgusting for children, I would recommend you take a look at the files and you hold those people accountable. Like, I don't think Bereo is our biggest threat to children. I think pedophiles in positions of power that are abusing that power to predate on children, I think that's a bigger deal. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't both be big deals or whatever, but I'm just saying, in his position, during this time, I'm not exactly using him as like a barometer for like what is suitable for my children to watch. So I found it a bit hypocritical. There's a whole Wikipedia article about just the two of them together, Epstein and Trump. So, if that relationship was notable enough that you have your own separate Wikipedia page, then like maybe you're in a glass house. So maybe like quit chucking stones. Like keep that to a minimum, dude. Like not the time, nor place. So I actually put a fun little pun in this next paragraph that I'm really proud of. I said, looming over the halftime conversation as well was far-right political activist Laura Loomer. Do you get it? She's looming because her name is Loomer. Anyway, she said the quiet part out loud. She was not pulling punches. She was very explicit in her take on it. She wrote that the show wasn't white enough for her, and it contained, quote, not a single white person or English translation at the Super Bowl, end quote. So this is factually incorrect. I saw somebody point out that, like, that tweet is proof that she was watching the Super Bowl halftime show rather than watching the alternative one. So she was like, I'm not going to watch the Kid Rock one. I'm going to tune into the Bad Bunny one so I can complain about it. So I just think that kind of doesn't bode well that, like, your whole alternative show you didn't even watch. Anyway, that's a different conversation. Lady Gaga was in the show. So that, I think that counts as a single white person. I mean, there were more, but like Lady Gaga sang, and she sang in English. Checkmate, Laura. Checkmate. You are not paying good enough attention. So again, don't deal in absolutes. There was a singular white person in English translation. And when Bad Bunny got to the God Bless America section, he said that in English. Like, the things that you needed to know were displayed on, like, there was text on the football in English. There was some stuff on the screen in the stadium that was in English. And there's enough, like, context clues. I mean, I don't mean to get, like, elementary with it, but there were, like, hand motions and there was, there was like gestures and props that kind of help you figure out what's going on. And there were a lot of cognates. Like when you hear Nueva York, they're talking about Nueva York, which is New York. It's a cognate. So I feel like it wouldn't have even been a big deal if there had been no English at all, like not one bit. So, and then of course, Lady Gaga is Italian American and was born in New York. So she is, a white person. So there's your white person. And so I think it's important to remember that not understanding Bad Bunny's performance is not a barrier to enjoying his music and participating in the fun. He had made that statement about like, oh yeah, 4 months tour in Spanish. And a lot of people were like, don't tell me what to do. But he said in an interview before the show, he was like, oh, they don't need to know Spanish. They just need to know how to dance. I thought that was cute. I thought it was just nice to say because that was really what it was about. It was like culture and dance. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I consumed every word. And I'll be frank, I don't understand every word he's saying, and I speak Spanish. And I don't understand every word English-speaking artists are saying. I love to listen to records, and sometimes I'll get out the liner notes and the lyrics. I'll be like, that's what they're saying? Like, there's so many songs that I fully thought were something else. So I'm not going to pretend that I was, like, locked in and I was like, oh, yes, I understand everything. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in this episode, I had to look up, or I learned from my sister, or I learned from a friend, or, I just was educated differently about. And so that's fine, too. Like, you have a phone in your pocket. Like, most people have a phone in their pocket, and then they'll be like, I don't know this. And it's like, yeah, okay, Google does. And if you want to waste water, ChatGPT knows. You'll be okay. It's okay. It's okay that it takes a little bit of thought. Like, you'll live. So I thought this show had really beautiful messaging, and it promoted unity across Latino America, which is Latin America for you English speakers, and other American nations like the US and Canada. So we're going to talk about some of those themes. I'm going to go kind of like a rundown of the show. In the article, I have included a set list, and in the set list, I have like a rough English translation of titles that can be translated. Some of them are slang words or sounds, so it's like I didn't feel the need to translate those. So if you want that set list, you can follow along on the website, and there's a little drop down for that. Otherwise, I will be going through the section called Songs, Visuals, and Messaging. Okay, so for people that are new to Bad Bunny, I'll just let you know to begin with, I'm going to tell you when the songs were released and what album they're from, just so you have some context. In this performance, he did a really solid blend of like some of the older songs of his and then like the new album. So I thought it was really well balanced. If you didn't like the new album, I'm sorry. We can discuss that later, but I love the album. I love the new album, so I was really happy. There were certain songs that I was like, certainly he won't perform this. This is too niche. And then he did, and I was like, yay. So we'll talk about that specific song I'm thinking about when we get to it. So I'm not going to translate the lyrics of all the songs. I'll give you a rough idea of what they mean, like what the song is, but there are far more qualified people. There are bilingual Puerto Rican people who have translated everything comprehensively. And there's just people from all different, perspectives and backgrounds who can better translate everything for you. Those you can find them on like Genius Lyrics, or there's somebody on Reddit, on like the Spanish learning subreddit, that has broken down like a lot of his discography, like word for word, even like I'm not kidding, word for word. Like gives you a translation and then breaks it down. So if you need that is something you can get elsewhere. That is not something I am providing today, because that's a lot of work. But he also did a good job of blending kind of two different flavors of songs. There's like some songs that are like club songs, and then there's some that are more like political, and they have like a specific message they're trying to say. And there are some that bridge the gap between the both, and that's that's great. But I am going to kind of boil them into two categories. It doesn't mean the political songs are not catchy. It does not mean that the catchy songs are not political. So don't bother me about that. I'm trying my best. So throughout the performance, he kind of transcends language barriers too, and the visuals do a really good job of tying in the iconography and the culture of Puerto Rico to kind of give you the vibe. The first song in the set was Titi Me Preguntó, which means Auntie asked me. I guess I'll break down this one for you. Titi means auntie because tia means aunt. So like Titi, tia, aunt, auntie. So there you have that. I felt so smart when that hit me for the first time. I was like I knew intellectually what it meant, and then when I went like Titi, tia, I was like, oh, I'm so smart. So that song is from the album Un Verano Sin Ti. That means A Summer Without You. That is his 2022 album. This is, in my opinion, one of the most iconic Bad Bunny songs. Before DTMF came out, this was like the Bad Bunny song. This, and maybe I would make an argument for I Like It by Cardi B. His feature on that is pretty iconic. So it's very upbeat, it's very exciting, and it has been on the year-end Billboard charts since it came out, like every year. And I imagine it will stay there. It had an uptick in streams after the halftime show, so that's really cool. The best way I can describe the song is it's kind of like Mambo number 5, where like it's like I like Gabriela's, I like Patricia's, I like Nicole, I like Sophia, I like Maria. Like he goes through like naming names, kind of like a little bit of Monica, a little bit of Sandra. You know that song. I'm not gonna sing any of the songs. Fast forward to, I'm probably gonna sing one of them. It'll probably come out of me at some point. So, if you want me to perform these songs in full, if we can get this podcast to 1 billion streams, I will release a full cover of Titi Me Preguntó. So if you're looking forward to hearing that, make sure to send this to everyone you know and like it, and get this to 1 billion streams. That way I can join the Billions Club, and I can record this song for you. So, just a little incentive for you. So, he started the show with like a little title card, and there's like, it said like presented by whatever. And then we like come into like a field of grass and sugar cane, and he starts performing Titi Me Preguntó. And there's like these bushels, is how I'm gonna say it. These like bundles of grass, and they're like real life performers. My editor, while she was editing my article, she brought up that there's like a weight limit for certain things, so instead of bringing in all that grass, they could have them be performers. And she knows a guy who knows a guy who was one of the bushels. So I thought that was pretty cool. I wish they would have told me in advance, like if Bad Bunny could have invited me to be grass. That'd been super cool. So next time, put me on the invite list, Benito. I love you. Anyway, the performers were wearing like white, and then Bad Bunny shows up, and he's in like a white football jersey with I think it was 64 on it, and that is, I believe, the birth year of his uncle. And then it said Ocasio on the back, which is one of his last names. My understanding is Spanish surnames are like the paternal surname and then the maternal surname. So Ocasio would be his mother's last name, I believe. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but that's my understanding. So he was holding a football. This was an homage to the fact that before the concert, they played a little bit of football on that field. And then after the concert, they decided to play a little more. And then he started walking down the path. It kind of looked like a corn maze. That was kind of the energy. But then there were like little motifs throughout it. So it's important to kind of break down sugar cane in Puerto Rico. So they they, being the island, have like a history of growing and processing sugarcane. So they like grew a ton of sugarcane, and then they can also process sugarcane from all over. And so in like 1952, they grew over 12 million tons of sugarcane. So yeah, this kind of started under Spanish rule. It's important to remember at the time, the Caribbean was very colonial. So in the 19th century, a lot of this labor on the like sugarcane plantations was done by enslaved people. So they were not voluntarily doing it. So it's important to acknowledge that history with it. And then later in like the 20th century, the farm workers were there and they harvested the sugarcane, and they're called jibaros. Now, I looked up a pronunciation of that word because it was a new word for me. And it sounds like the emphasis is on the second syllable when I've heard people say it, and I've seen pronunciation guides, even though there's an accent over the I. So in my opinion, based on reading it, I thought it was jibaros, but it looked like in pronunciation guides it's jibaros. So sorry if I butchered that. Nothing but peace and love to you. Anyway, they're known for like hard work, like a good work ethic. So part of the like iconography is like the shirts, and then also the straw hats. They're called pavas. So you saw if you watch the show, there are plenty of pavas. They are kind of a symbol now of Puerto Rican culture, the jibaro and the pava. So there's also a huge influence on Bad Bunny's fashion. You can see like in Met Gala looks, like other like red carpety event looks, he's kind of doing the look of like a jibaro, and so it's a nod to Puerto Rican culture. And so a lot of the workers in the field in the halftime show were dressed like jibaros. So cool little piece of history. Yeah, I keep dropping rocks. I'm playing with a fidget right now while I record this, so if you hear stuff dropping, sorry, this is how I think. So as he traveled through the field, like I said, there were like little motifs and vignettes of Puerto Rican culture. So there's some food related ones like coco frio, piraguas, and tacos. So if you're not familiar, coco frio, I mean, it just means cold coconut. It's like a chilled coconut, and then you put a straw in it and you drink the stuff. It's coconut water, right? I've also heard coconut milk, but when it comes straight out of the fruit or the nut or whatever it is it a milk or a water, or is it a juice? Because like when you juice an apple, you get juice. But then when you get like Vita Coco, that's water. I don't know. We're going to go with coconut juice. That feels like a fair middle ground. So you drink the coconut juice. And then piraguas are like shave ice. So if you've seen In the Heights, there's like a piragua thing. I encourage you to watch it. Lin-Manuel Miranda is also Puerto Rican. And In the Heights is a really cool exploration of Puerto Rican culture in New York, specifically in Washington Heights. So Bad Bunny references Washington Heights, and there's a reference to piraguas. That's all commonly known things, and another place you can explore that is In the Heights. The film version was directed by John M. Chu, who did Crazy Rich Asians and most recently Wicked. So it's pretty good. I recommend it. So then there were also other things going on. There were viejitos, which is like little old men, if that makes sense. And they're playing dominoes at a table. And then there was like women doing nail art. And then there were also boxers. Now, I'm not into like MMA or boxing or WWE, or I actually don't even know if any of those terms mean the same thing, but Bad Bunny's into it, so I'll be tangentially into it for today. So I was kind of like, oh, cute, boxers, whatever. And then I found out later those are like famous boxers. I was like, what? Like, how was I supposed to know this? I don't know boxing. Then I was like, oh, I don't need to understand something to enjoy it. So the boxers were Xander Zayas, and he's Puerto Rican, and then Emiliano Vargas, and he's Mexican. So apparently there's kind of a Puerto Rico-Mexico boxing rivalry. I'm not into boxing, but that's what I understand it to be. So it's kind of like a famous Puerto Rican representing Puerto Rico, a famous Mexican representing Mexico. So I thought that was a cool detail for people who understood it. I guess that would be like, I can't think of any particular team rivalries, but that would be like if they were doing a little homage to, I don't know, to football. And there was like Tom Brady and like Peyton Manning. Like they represent different teams. So there you have it. Can you tell I don't know sports? Well, I watch the Olympics and that's it pretty much. Olympics and soccer. So then the next song is Yo Pereo Sola, which translates to I Pereo Alone. Now, pereo is something that's like a specific, I'm going to say flavor, but that's not what I mean. Like a specific flavor of dance that particularly goes with reggaeton music. And so a lot of outlets that are like translating the lyrics are using the word twerk for it. There's more than twerk in it. So I feel like that's kind of a simplistic view of that concept to be like, oh, it means I twerk alone. So, I mean, yeah, that's just some context for you. The song came off of an album. It's an acronym. The acronym stands for Yo hago lo que me da la gana, which means I do whatever I want, and it's from 2020. Now, little known fact, in 2020 there was a pandemic, and during the pandemic, for those of you who don't remember, like you couldn't go places, and so you're often alone. So this song became kind of a double meaning because like if you usually like twerk with other people, during the pandemic you twerked alone. And that's because of like social distancing. And if you look at it through that lens, it kind of is poetic that it came out in 2020. But kind of the other meaning of it, based on like the music video and the lyrics, is that like not everyone wants to dance with you. Like some people want to twerk alone. Like don't go harass a woman because she may just want to like dance by herself. She does not need you to make a night good. So don't be harassing people. So that's kind of the meaning of it. That was the second song performed, and then I'm kind of going through like a little series, and then I'll get to kind of what that series means. Next is Safaera. That's from the same 2020 album. It's a very party song. It references like dancing and substance use. But Safaera is Puerto Rican slang, and it kind of evokes a specific club atmosphere. So there's not like a direct translation for it. It's kind of like a you had to be there. This song is one of the ones that has been controversial because a lot of it's like more explicit. So peace and love, if you want to know all of the ins and outs of the song, you can go look that up. So the next was Voy a llevarte pa PR, which means I'll take you to PR. PR being Puerto Rico. So that was from the 2025 album, DTMF. Debí tirar más fotos translates to I should have taken more photos. I feel like I sound like everyone at the Grammys trying to pronounce the name of the album. I just remember Harry Styles was presenting the award, and I'm a big Harry Styles fan. And like he started by saying Bad Bunny, and then everyone was cheering. And so you can barely hear him trying to speak Spanish. And I was kind of like, no, this is like hugely a big deal to me hearing Harry Styles speak Spanish. So I need everyone to be quiet. Please hold your applause to the end. Anyway, the song is about taking a woman to Puerto Rico to kind of see their dance and culture. So it's kind of like, oh, you want to see how to dance? Well, I'll take you to Puerto Rico. We'll see some dance, you know? And it shows kind of his love for the country and the island, and it celebrates the energy of it. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of excitement, a lot of joy. So it's kind of a celebration of that. Then next, I've been debating how to say this song title because I don't know that I've heard it said. I call it EO, but it's spelled EOO. So it's also from DTMF. And I mean, the best way I can describe it is it's another party song. It's about dancing on someone at the club. It's about clubbing. Just kind of a fun tune. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to pronounce the whole, I don't know how the title's meant to be said, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's a fun one. But then it's that one that goes like, brr, 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 but like deeper and better. So that's that song. And then Monaco. That one is from his 2023 album, Nadie sabe lo que va a pasar mañana, which means nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. So it's another club track. That's kind of the series I'm going through, is there's kind of this dance section that I think fits together in one section. So before we go to like the more cultural songs, we'll discuss kind of this. But this song is about success and wealth. The music video features a backdrop of modern Monaco and a cameo by Al Pacino. So it's kind of got like an old Hollywood glam to it, but also like a Monaco Grand Prix to it. Monaco is like a little nation in like the south of France, and it's got Monte Carlo. So that would be your context for it. So it's like Monte Carlo. Okay. So then as he's moving through these motifs, we see a jewelry vendor, and the jewelry vendor hands him a ring. And we're like, oh, a ring. But then he turns around and he gives it to this dude, who immediately turns around and proposes to his girlfriend. So I wonder if that will mean anything in the future. So then we move into La Casita, which is like a pink rustic house. It's a set piece that was used during Bad Bunny's residency, and it's also popped up in like his visualizers and music videos and stuff. So it's kind of a symbol of like just stereotypical housing in Puerto Rico. It's based on like real blueprints from kind of the era. And during the performances, he would like perform on top of it and around it, and there'd be a bunch of celebrities inside. So like while Bad Bunny's performing, LeBron James is down in La Casita, kind of having a good time. So this version of it also kind of did that VIP house party feel, and there were other celebrities included. So I'm going to kind of list them off. So Pedro Pascal, he's an actor, and he's Chilean-American. I dropped another rock. And then Puerto Rican rapper Young Miko, Colombian singer Karol G, Afro-Caribbean American rapper Cardi B, Mexican-American actress Jessica Alba, and Venezuelan baseball player Ronald Acuna Jr., and then Miami-based entrepreneur Dave Grutman, and then for some reason Alex Earl. So I've tried to figure out why Alex Earl was there. I still haven't figured it out. To my understanding, she has like no connection with Bad Bunny. I don't know, but she's a famous influencer, and you know what? Peace and love. Influencers, do your thing. Good for you. Part of me was jealous because I was like, if random Americans can be there, why wasn't I invited? Obviously I wouldn't have been invited. I'm like aware of my status. But like, it's kind of like, oh, she's like me, which was like both good and bad. But the tea with Alex Earl. Now, I'm not like an Alex Earl fan, so I can't really speak to her. I got her and Alex Cooper mixed up until like a month ago. So there was some controversy with her being included because in the past she has kind of been like MAGA coded. She claims to not be MAGA, but a lot of people are very convinced she is. And so people were like, why would she be there if she's like supporting the enemy, Like, why would a Luke Skywalker concert have Darth Vader? He's on Palpatine's side, Like, you're not supposed to be here. So that's probably a really bad analogy. But anyway, that's kind of the vibe of it. So that's who is there. And I just remember watching it and I was like, wait a second, is that Pedro Pascal? And then I saw Cardi B and I was like, oh, cool. She'll perform. I like it. She didn't. So, I mean, she doesn't always have to be on the clock. Like, I respect her just hanging out and having a good time. I think she's allowed to do that. But, yeah. So then he, like, after he is on La Casita, then he, like, falls to the roof, then goes to the house, and then he gets on top of a truck and performs on the truck. And there's, like, violinists and, like, classical performers that come out, and there's this Costa Rican conductor. His name is Giancarlo Guerrero, and he came out there, and Bad Bunny kind of does this, like, speaking to the camera, where he's like, believe in yourself and all that. I'm not going to directly translate what he said. I'm going to gatekeep it a little bit. You can look it up if you need to, but it was really beautiful, and it was really touching, and it was kind of a moment to slow down. So yeah. Then there was this crazy thing that happened. Like, stop the presses. There was a real life wedding. So the people that, like, proposed at the beginning, it's Thomas Wolter and Elisa Aparicio. I hope I pronounced your name right. But it looks like Elisa or Elisa. Anyway, they, like, legally got married. So they called in this pastor, Antonio Reyes, who is, like, legally authorized to, like, he has, like, the power vested in him, you know? So, and he did it in Spanish. So this couple invited Bad Bunny to their wedding, and he was like, I can't go to your wedding, but do you want to come to my Super Bowl? And, like, who's saying no to that? I don't care what money has been invested in my wedding. I'm dropping everything to be married at a Bad Bunny concert, you know? I just think that's just intuitive at that point. Anyway, then the wedding kind of splits, and we have Lady Gaga. People have been calling her Lady Gagita. They say she's an honorary Latina. Good for her. She performed Die With a Smile and, like, a salsa version of it. That song she originally sings with, I'm just dropping a bunch of stuff. She originally sings with Bruno Mars. And Bruno Mars is Latino. And so I thought for sure he was going to come out and join, because I was like, this feels like a good spot. He didn't, and I was a little disappointed, but that's okay. I'll get over it. This song came out in 2025. It was off of, it was included in her album, Mayhem. So she wore the national flower of Puerto Rico on her dress, and she made a really nice Instagram post thanking Bad Bunny for the opportunity and saying she had a good time. We saw them interacting at the Grammys, and it was kind of like, oh, they seem like they're friends. And I was like, well, little did they know they've been working on this halftime show, you know? Like, they're friends. So then after she, like, as, like, the song kind of goes into, like, a dance section, they all, like, split up, and they dance. So she was wearing a dress designed by Dominican-American designer Raul Lopez, and she was wearing a flor de maga, which is the national flower of Puerto Rico. So it was really cool, and I thought that her outfit was really thoughtfully planned, and I think that's beautiful. So then we go into Baile Inolvidable. Now, I've talked about this song before on this podcast. I like it a lot. It's not my favorite song on the album, but it is so moving. Like, this song haunts me. It's also from DTMF. It translates to unforgettable dance. So you kind of get the vibe. An unforgettable dance would be like, you know, the person that is, like, so integral in your life that you could never get rid of them, if that makes sense. It's kind of like the one that got away. Like, it's the person that just has had such an impact on you, even if things didn't work out. Like, they're part of you now. So as the song began, Bad Bunny joined Lady Gaga. I think that's crazy, because that's, like, not their legal names. I'm talking about them like it's first name Bad, last name Bunny, first name Lady, last name Gaga. That'd be a cute, like, sibling set names. If anyone's having twins, you should name them Bad Bunny and Lady Gaga. Anyway, So the wedding reception, like, Bad Bunny's in a suit. They're dancing with the wedding guests. There's people of all ages dancing. There's a cake they're cutting. These people got a bang for their buck on their wedding. Like, this is a cool wedding. It's really a celebration of family. There was a kid taking a nap across some of the chairs. So a lot of people online have been like, this is an experience you have at, like, Black and brown family gatherings. People of all different, cultures have had that experience. If you're at the family gathering and you're tired out, but the adults are still going, so you gotta take a nap. I was not a kid who did that as much. I didn't really sleep as a kid. So I would hide behind, like, the Christmas tree at family functions with my cousin. And I remember one time we would, like, get shrimp on a plate from, like, the cocktail shrimp platter, and we'd go hide behind the Christmas tree and eat it. And then I was like, I'm out of shrimp. And my cousin was like, I'll do recon, like, I'll go get it. And he came back with the whole shrimp platter. So we cleared that shrimp platter. So it would have been nice if in the future there could have been some representation for experiences like that, of, like, stealing cocktail shrimp. That may be an original experience, but it would have been kind of cool to see that in the Super Bowl. So that kid has, like, done he's posted on social media about the process. I think it's really cool that, like, imagine, like, you're like, yeah, that was me. I'm the chair kid. Anyway, next they perform Nueva York, which is, so it's spelled with an L at the end, Nueva York. There are people who, when they're saying Nueva York, because, like, the RK sound, the is not like as common in Spanish. Sometimes that turns into an L. So it's kind of a play on how people might say Nueva York. So it pretty much just means New York, like the city. It's pretty much understood to be the city, not the state. We're not talking about Albany here. So the song samples a song called Un Verano en Nueva York, which means a summer in New York. And it's a song by El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico. And it tells the story of, like, Puerto Rican identity in New York City. It references, well, the song on the whole kind of talks about Puerto Rican identity in New York City. And then it references specific neighborhoods and cultural icons. So they talk about, like, the Mets. They talk about Washington Heights. They talk about the 4th of July. If you're mad there wasn't English, the first line Bad Bunny performs in Nueva York is Cuarto de Julio, 4th of July. He translates it right there for you. And he held up a 4 on his fingers. So now that you know what he's saying, I encourage you to look back at that moment and see how my performance of that line stacked up. So he joins dancers on the field to perform it. And there's a replica of a bodega called La Marqueta and a barber shop. And inside was this woman called Toñita. Toñita is, so I didn't know this. This is one of the things I had to look up because I knew intellectually kind of like she was a big deal. But she's like an icon of Brooklyn. And she owns this club called the Caribbean Social Club. So it's kind of a special piece of culture for people immigrating from the Caribbean. So Toñita's a big deal. Yeah, I love that song. And I thought that performance was really cool. And then after that, we head over to a couch where two, seemingly parents and a little boy are watching the Grammys on television. And this little boy looks like a young Benito. So there's this picture of Benito in like a striped shirt or whatever and like shorts. And this kid is dressed like he was in that photo. So it's kind of an homage to young Benito. And so he walks up and he's watching the Grammys and like watching Bad Bunny get the award. So then Bad Bunny walks up and hands him the physical award. And it kind of represents like the children that, it's the past and the future kind of coming together. But then it's also like there are children who, to achieve their dreams, have left home and are in all kinds of different circumstances. So it's kind of a beautiful acknowledgement of that background. Okay, next is a song. Okay, I've been singing this song nonstop, and I'm like fighting demons right now to not sing all of it. So my favorite song on DTMF is called Lo que le pasó a Hawaii. I used it in an assignment in uni. I love this song. And it translates to what happened to Hawaii. So I didn't think he would perform it because I was like, this is too niche. Like, this I can only dream of. And then I start to hear it, and I like ascended off the couch, like instant tears, like they're playing my song. So it's also off of DTMF. I think I already said that, 2025. So it's a new song. And lo and behold, sitting there, ready to sing my favorite song, is Ricky Martin. Ricky Martin is also Puerto Rican. So the thing about Ricky Martin is, like, when he first was doing music and all that, he had to perform in English to kind of break it into the mainstream. If you're familiar with Livin' La Vida Loca, that is a Ricky Martin song. So he was performing a lot in English, and then now to be on the world's biggest stage, or one of the world's biggest stages, I don't know what the world's biggest stage is what's a bigger stage, the Super Bowl or the opening ceremony of the Olympics? Anyway, drop your opinion in the comments. So the song is about preserving Puerto Rico, like its land and culture, to kind of prevent gentrification. Now, when Hawaii was granted statehood and like became a territory and all of that, it's a state now, but I think it was a territory before then. The queen was like, I don't know, my sister could tell you more about this, but they just were not cool about it. And it's led to a lot of Native Hawaiians being forced off the island to move to mainland US because it's unaffordable, because people that are like rich are moving there and like building these big resorts and complexes and mansions. And it's not like it used to be. It's become gentrified. And it's sad. I hope people like become interested in this and like start researching it more, because there is an ethical way. I mean, I believe there to be ethical ways to participate in tourism, because it can boost an economy while also not being like destructive and not making it impossible for locals to live there. So there's a really rich history there that we can lose if we're not careful. So there's kind of this desire to keep Puerto Rico safe from that fate. Puerto Rico has a lot of like crypto bros living there, and there's lots of weird legal things that happen that kind of make it, I think like Jake Paul lives in Puerto Rico or something like that. Anyway, there's people building these giant mansions there. And so we kind of see the beginning of a pattern that it's like, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. So one of the things referenced is the lelolai. So lelolai is a musical motif, and you can hear it across a variety of Puerto Rican music. You'll hear like a little lelolai in there. I encourage you to start looking for it. I mean, I hate to keep bringing up In the Heights, but that's just I'm a theater kid, what can I say? Lelolai is in the Heights. So you'll start to hear it, and it's just, I think it's really special. It reminds me of that song from La La Land, like Mia and Sebastian's theme. Like the second it starts playing in any moment, you're like, I know this feeling. It's such a rich feeling. So, the song has been kind of infectious because a lot of people have been talking about Ricky Martin's performance of it, and they were like, I don't know what he was saying, but I feel it, because there was just such passion there. And there's no words. That moment really hit for me, and I've been singing it nonstop, and it's just a reminder to like, don't let go of the flag, don't let go of the lelolai. Like, we have to protect Puerto Rico, and I wish Hawaii had been protected that way. So anyway, there's my little rant about that. So what's really interesting about the staging of this is Ricky Martin was sitting on essentially a replica of the album cover, which is like banana trees, or is it plantains? I'm not smart enough to know the difference right this minute. I would know it if I tasted a difference between a banana and a plantain, but just looking at it, probably couldn't tell you. And maybe I need to educate myself. Maybe that's a me problem. So, anyway, and there's like the two white chairs. And so he's sitting there, and it's just really beautiful because it's like, this is what it's all about. So then he already, just having done a very political and heartfelt song. I'm using the word political, and really what I mean is just like social messaging, but it is political too. So then we cut to power poles, and I immediately was like, buckle up, because I know what song is next. Because the next song is El Apagón. So the lights in the stadium are like flickering and sparking, and I'm like, oh, I am so set. I'm ready. This is a brutal pairing because it makes me emotional. So, El Apagón. I'm gonna take a quick break and get a drink of water before I talk about this because I wore myself out. Okay, El Apagón. So the release of this song was accompanied by a documentary, and the documentary, I really encourage you to watch it. It's like 20 minutes. I watched it. I took a class in uni called Politics and Popular Music, and what a class. Like, the material in it really made me think. So we watched the documentary and we listened to the song, and I just think they sit really beautifully next to each other. So they talk about like blackouts and gentrification. So as many people remember, there was a hurricane called Hurricane Maria, and it just absolutely like devastated the island. So it's hard to talk about it a little bit. This song was released 5 years later, and there were people still living with blackouts. There's very frequent blackouts in Puerto Rico where they just don't have access to electricity. Now, when the power goes out here at my house, it takes about 10 minutes for me to start freaking out and being like, where is their power? I will drive there. So there's still a lot of people that are struggling with access to electricity because of the way power works in Puerto Rico. So when they perform this on utility poles, it kind of hits you over the head with what they're talking about. So other Puerto Rican artists like Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I keep talking about, have done songs kind of addressing Hurricane Maria and kind of the devastation this island faces. And they like raise music and awareness and money. And so I think it's really cool that music has been a way to kind of talk about this and bring it to the attention of people who may not otherwise know. So when Bad Bunny joins the workers, he is carrying a Puerto Rican flag. Now here, my sister explained this to me, and then I researched it for myself. So actually, all credit to her. Super, super glad I researched this. So the flag he is carrying, the blue is sky blue. Now, the shade of blue can carry specific meanings. Okay, I'll start with saying the official flag, the blue is like a dark cobalt blue. So it's kind of more like the US flag, or it's pretty much a direct inverse of the Cuban flag. So when you look at like Captain America's uniform, that's the Puerto Rican flag. So that's, like a more medium cobalty blue. So if you want to represent like a desire for statehood and integration into the US, that blue is sometimes made even darker to more like a navy blue. But like the darker blue shows like this is the status quo, we want a good relationship with the US, all that kind of stuff. If you fly a light blue flag, so like a sky blue, that's a flag originating in like 1895, and it's more associated with concepts of independence and like self-determination. So when you fly a flag with the lighter blue, it shows your kind of opinion on that issue of like, we are independent, we can self-govern, we are cool, that whole concept. So when he flies a light blue flag in the context of this song, it's kind of critiquing the relationship with the U.S. and kind of explaining it that way. So really interesting stuff. I linked an article for you to read about this topic. I think it's so interesting. If you're not into that, sorry, but it's so interesting to me. I could talk about it forever, but I'm not going to. Next is Café con Ron, featuring Los Pleneros de la Cresta. So the translation of that is coffee with rum. I saw the funniest Reddit post. Somebody said they thought it was Café con Ron, like an old guy named Ron. So it was about, like, getting coffee with an old guy named Ron, not knowing that Ron means ron means rum in Spanish, like Jack Sparrow rum. And so this is also off of DTMF. It's a 2025 song. It's about Café con Ron, which is a cocktail. So a version of this song was performed with the original collaborators, but they upped it a little with like higher energy. I want them to drop that version on Spotify. I'm not the only one who feels this way. It was a really cool version of the song, and I love the original. So the collaborators, Los Pleneros de la Cresta, use like their pleneros, which is a older, like more traditional kind of Puerto Rican music. So it kind of, the story of the song is they talk about like in the morning you drink coffee, and then in the afternoon you drink rum. So in the morning, waking up with coffee. In the afternoon, you are around your community, you're out on the streets, you're out on your porch, you're drinking rum. So it's a very celebration-focused song. I love it. I would put it on when I got out of the car at uni, and I would listen to it as I walked to class. That song, I don't know what about it made it feel like a good walking song for me. I would lock in, and I'd be so ready for class. Anyway, so this kind of opens up the final movement of the show, and they're playing it, and fireworks are going off, and these people run out with like dozens of flags, like a ton of flags, and these are the flags of America. And here's the thing. America as a word does not specifically refer to the U.S. Now, let's break this down. So, the United States of America is called that because we are the United States that are in America. We're a small part of America. We're just the United States part of America, if that makes sense. So, there's kind of debated origins of the word America. Some people trace it back to America Vespucci. Some people trace it back to indigenous cultures. Regardless, it refers to the whole supercontinent, which when I say supercontinent, I mean North America to South America. I mean from the Yukon up in Alaska. I mean from Greenland and Hudson Bay all the way down to the Falkland Islands and Patagonia in Argentina. It is from the tip top of North America to the tip bottom of South America, okay? It's a big place, and it's full of a lot of rich culture. So, Bad Bunny says in English, God bless America. Now, Irving Berlin had the song, God Bless America, in World War I. And so, it has been known to be about the USA. But we kind of play with that concept here to like what America means, and he kind of subverts expectations by saying God bless America. Now remember, he was accused of like not being patriotic, and like this halftime show is going to be about hating America, and he just said God bless America. Oh, like what do we do? So then he continues in Spanish. I'll just read verbatim what he said. Sea Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, Los Antillas, United States, Canadá, and my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico. Seguimos aquí, ahora sí. He said it way better than that. I just embarrassed myself. So I'll English up those countries for you. That's Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Haiti, the Antilles, the United States, and Canada, and then Puerto Rico again, which he calls his motherland. So I've included a graphic of the American supercontinent that shows what countries were mentioned. It's most of them. He left out Belize and it looks like Suriname and French Guiana. French Guiana is a territory of France, and Suriname speaks Dutch. And then Las Antillas is like a regional thing for the Caribbean, but it doesn't include like the Bahamas. And then Belize wasn't included. Belize speaks English. And then Greenland, and Greenland speaks Greenlandic. So it's most of the Spanish-speaking countries plus the US and Canada. So it's super cool. I think it's really great to show kind of like this expanded idea of what it is. And then to shout out Puerto Rico twice, slay. We love. So it kind of shows this bigger identity of America. And so expanding that identity shows that like we're one people, we're one tribe, y'all, and we should act as such. So when you say, God bless America, it's essentially a prayer to God for blessings for the USA is usually what people intend by it. But why limit ourselves? Why limit God? Why be like, hey God, I believe you can bless a country, and I would like you to bless this specific one. Why would we not go, hey, you're God, you can bless all of them, and we're all one people, and we're all here together. And there's no use being like, but if they live on the other side of that line, they're not counted in this. Like, when we want the best for other people, and we want people to live their dreams and be the best they can be and have a happy life and be provided for, we don't want to limit that. Why on earth would we limit that? Like, fine, if you want to be the number one best country, awesome. But close the gap between number one and number two. Like, you can, fine, be number one if that's what you need to do. But make sure number 2 is still wonderful, and make sure number 3 is still wonderful, all the way down to number 196. Like, make sure they're all wonderful. So, I mean, I am a person of faith. I'm a person of prayer. So I encourage other Christians and religious people to kind of open up your mind when you want good and you pray for good for your nation. Include other nations too. There's no harm in that. If you believe in an all-powerful God, why would you be like, but only this one? Like, no. So during this final movement or act, the 2 English messages were displayed. On the big screen in the back, it said, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. And then on the football, it said, together we are America. So the title of the article is Juntos Somos America, which means together we are America. So I just went ahead and put that in Spanish as the title. So I don't know if that's plagiarism or not. Anyway, then they perform DTMF. This song makes me emotional. Okay. The English translation, it's the same as the album name. It means I should have taken more photos. It's the 2025 album. It is an emotional gut punch, in my opinion. It also served as the finale for the set. And then, rather than explain the purpose of the song, I will read for you, not sing for you, the lyrics of the main chorus, and then I'll translate them. So it says, Debí tirar más fotos de cuando te tuve, which means I should have taken more photos when I had you. Debí darte más besos y abrazos las veces que pude. I should have given you more kisses and hugs when I had the chance. Ojalá que los míos nunca se muden. hey, I hope that my people never move away. Y si hoy me emborracho, pues que me ayudan. And if I get drunk today, that they'll help me. So it's this really beautiful message of community and memory and preserving memory. So it's a really gorgeous song. I wish everyone spoke Spanish so they could hear it the way I've been able to hear it. And it's such a privilege and a blessing to be able to hear it that way. It's still good in English, but it is just a gorgeous, gorgeous song. So they're kind of like singing it as they walk out of the stadium, carrying flags. It's really beautiful. And the sun kind of set during the performance. So it started really bright, and by the end, there's like fireworks and sunset, and it's just gorgeous. Like what a time. And they're performing it very acoustically, like they cut the mic and they're all just singing together, and it's just so beautiful. So that kind of explains the show, and so now I'll kind of wrap it up with my opinions on the show. Okay, my thoughts on it. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around how many people watched the halftime show. So with there being like politically motivated controversy, there are a lot of people, like I assume like Laura Loomer, who were watching it out of curiosity, kind of like a hate watch, or people were like, well, if people are mad about this, then I want to see what's actually going on. So there was an average of 128.2 million viewers of the halftime show. That number is expected to go up as they get more data from around the world, because it was viewed around the world. A lot of their streams were international, which I think is really cool. I was really happy it was done on Pacific time, so that I didn't have to stay up till like 3, because I'm in Pacific time. Shout out California, shout out Washington, shout out Oregon, and I guess shout out British Columbia. Anyway, I think I got them all. If I missed you and you're in the Pacific time zone, let me know in the comments and I'll shout you out. So they created an alternative show, and it was pre-taped. The TPUSA, the Turning Point USA halftime show was pre-taped, and they opened with dedicating it to Charlie Kirk. Now I don't know much about like Charlie Kirk's music taste, but I just want to say, if I die, please get different artists to perform at my memorial halftime. In fact, I would like for my memorial halftime to probably be Bad Bunny. I'm formally requesting Bad Bunny, Harry Styles, Lizzie McAlpine, and Dua Lipa. There you go. That's my formal request. So if you need to make an alternative halftime show in my memory, please choose those artists. Sincerely, me. Thank you. They peaked at like 6.1 million concurrent viewers. Not what I thought. I thought there would be like way more. But I mean, nothing to scoff at. It would be great if we could get to 6.1 million viewers on this podcast. Anyway, that was on YouTube, because they were going to stream it on, I want to say X, but then there was like copyright issues, and then they last minute were like, here's a YouTube link. So they did that, and it was pre-taped. So I was very concerned that something was going to go wrong during Bad Bunny's performance, because there was all this hoopla about it. I was concerned about, violence even. There's been speculation that Bad Bunny wore a bulletproof vest at both the Grammys and the Super Bowl halftime show. This has not been confirmed, so there's just been a lot of concern people have had about death threats he's received, and threats that ICE would intervene, even though he's a U.S. citizen. I was concerned about potentially other performers in his ensemble, or fans, or anything like that. I was just concerned. So I'm glad that things went fine. But it was scary. So there were intense reactions after the show, because of course there was, because for some reason we're not allowing ourselves to be normal right now and just react to things proportionate to what they are. And I guess that's a bit rich coming from me. This is now my 3rd Bad Bunny article, my 2nd for today's soapbox. So maybe I'm part of the problem of blowing things out of proportion. But it's a big deal to me, and you're here, you're still listening, so clearly it's a big deal to you. One of these reactions is from Republican Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee, and he called for an investigation into the performance and said it was indecent. Now, I don't want... I am going to make fun of this individual a little bit. So bear with me. You can skip if you need to. He said it featured sexually explicit themes, and he called it he said there was unspeakable depravities. Yeah. He had quite the post on X about it. I'll pull it up. He wrote, "The Apple Music Super Bowl 60 halftime show is pure smut, brazenly aired on national television for every American family to witness." He talks about, like, he grabbed his crotch, and it glorified sodomy. And so he's requested, like, a full review, a congressional inquiry into the NFL and NBC. So the way I'm going to make fun of him a little bit is his last name is Ogles. Now, this I found a bit weird because to ogle is to stare at in a lecherous manner. Lecherous means having or showing excessive or offensive sexual desire. So, like, to ogle someone is, like, not nice. I think it's kind of funny that his last name is Ogles and he's talking about sexually explicit dance. Anyway, I don't know if anyone else thinks that's funny, but when I first read it, I was like, are you kidding me? I would have had somebody with a different name bring up this point. Send in someone else. Anyway, so he, like, put out, like, a full congressional thingy he thinks they need to do because he's like, they knew they were going to be doing this, and they put, like, borderline, like, crazy stuff on TV. Some of the songs referenced in the inquiry have really, like, explicit lyrics. It's like, yeah. But those lyrics were not performed. So it was toned down a little. So, I mean, like, it could have been more. And also, like, let's just take a second and, like, look at performance in general. Like, there's sexually explicit stuff all the time. And Kid Rock has songs about statutory rape. And so I'm like, I don't know that, like, Kid Rock is maybe the guy you want to push as your alternative. Maybe we need an inquiry into that. So, again, in the context of, like, the Epstein files and all of that, to be like, this guy, who I don't like because he speaks Spanish, he's doing smut on TV, when at the same time we have, like, actual pictures of, like, global elites doing worse. It's like, I don't know, Andy, maybe you should focus on that. Like, aren't you in Congress? Don't you have bigger fish to fry? Anyway, before the halftime show, he was already kind of, like, on a tear about it. He said that, like, before he called for investigation, he was like, he said it depicted gay pornography. Now, there was no explicit nudity in the show. I think 2 men thrusted on each other, and it was, like, mostly obscured by the door of the truck. So I don't think that fits the definition of gay pornography. And he said it was conclusive proof that Puerto Rico should never become a state. What? Can you imagine, like, you're applying for statehood, and they're like, like, let's say if Puerto Rico wanted to be a state, and they're like, cool, can we be a state? And they're like, no, one person from your island grabbed his crotch during a halftime show. By that rate, America shouldn't be a country. Like, my goodness. I mean, we can't clutch our pearls about this and nothing else. Like, there are bigger pearls to clutch, Andy. Why don't you work on that? I feel like it's an attempt to divide people. I believe that he's trying to make Puerto Rico feel like this distant, indecent sex island that shows indecent sex to children. But I'm afraid that's actually a different island in the Caribbean that does that, and we are hoping that you investigate that island. So why don't you work on that? We can worry about Puerto Rican statehood at another juncture. But I double dog dare you to focus on something else. Anyway, I felt the show was really impactful. In my article, I used the term intensely impactful, and I like that, so I'm going to use that here. I was crying, I was cheering, I was like dancing, and by that I mean like as much as I can dance. I was rocking back and forth while sitting on the couch. Like, there's nothing exciting. And I was singing along because I speak Spanish. And I thought it was really, really well done. But I do feel that the best audience for it, like if I had to pick the ideal person to watch this, would be a bilingual Latina viewer, because they could understand every word spoken or sung, English or Spanish, and then also would be able to pick up on the cultural references. They would not have to Google as many things as other people had to Google. So I feel like that was kind of the best place to be in to watch it. But I mean, it was still very good. So some people came at it with like no context for Spanish, for Puerto Rico, for Latin America. And so even if you came at it with none of that, there was still, like, you could see clear as day in English, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. So, like, walking away, you're still getting the idea of the show. I mean, when he said, God bless America, you probably kind of got the gist. And then he said, like, Mexico, and you're probably like, oh, that sounds like Mexico. So if you had no concept for any of it, there was still something to get out of it. I think that's beautiful. I sat somewhere in the middle. I understood the words and meanings, but I couldn't relate to every experience. Like I said, I was more of like a eat shrimp at family gatherings, less like a sleep across the chairs. So there's just some experiences that are different. I've never really been to a wedding where people tore it up dancing. I've gone to weddings where we don't dance. So, to each their own. That was different from my experience, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. So the point is, it was not meant to isolate anyone. They included, by they, I mean, Bad Bunny included the US and Canada in his list. He could have just gone with Spanish-speaking America, and that would have been fine. But he didn't. He included you too. And that's beautiful. If you're in Europe, you're out of luck, dude. This isn't for you. Bye. I'm just kidding. We love you, Europe. Please be our friends. Canada and English primarily speak English. They were still included. And then all the celebrities there, like Alex Earl was there. Like, it's about sharing culture through representation. It's not about being like, this is for us and us only. Like, during Black History Month, it's not like, oh, this is only for Black people. It's like, no, all of us are meant to come together and learn Black history together. Like, it's a good time to sit down, go to the Black History Month section on a streaming service and find a movie or a documentary where you can learn. It's for everyone to learn and celebrate that culture, and it'll be okay. We're still going to watch, Forrest Gump. It's not over. Like, you'll be okay. We can represent other people, and that'll be fine. So, in conclusion, I'll say a final sentence, but before that, I would love if you could follow me. Go to my website, subscribe, leave likes, rate the show, share it with a friend. It would just mean a lot if you enjoyed what I had to say here, if you kind of took a step further and engaged with it a little bit so it can get to more people who would enjoy it, because I may be biased, but I thought it was kind of good. So, anyway. So if Alex Earl and all the other celebrities can be at the casita, and the US and Canadian flags can be waved alongside the flags of Latin America, there is a place for you too.